The new Batman Adventures saw many character redesigns when it debuted, but none of them were more dramatic or terrifying as the Scarecrow's design. He went from looking like a literal scarecrow in the original Batman the Animated Series to a resurrected Puritan who had been hung at the gallows. The DC Collectibles figure had an excellent sculpt, but the paint could have used some work. He really needed some kind of shadowing on his face and details picked out on his rope to better represent his look from the show. Luckily, you can easily fix this by adding a little paint yourself to make up for it. I also think they made his brown color a bit too light, so you could paint that before the black if you like, but it's not entirely necessary. You can see here with my first repaint of his head that the black without the darker brown works really well and improves the figure by quite a bit. I don't want to keep you in the dark any longer, so let's brave the waters and jump in. Here I'm going to try the darker brown first so you can see the whole process in case you want to do both. I've also removed his head, hat, and rope for use with a different custom, but that's not a requirement for this repaint. First, pick out a nice brown color that matches the source material and start with a light coat all over his head. I've said it before, but the key to getting a nice smooth looking finish without any brush strokes is to build up thin layers of paint. This is a nice starter project if you've been looking to get into customizing, as it only requires a little bit of painting skills. Even then, if you've never painted, this can be a pretty loose interpretation with the shadows, and it will give you some good experience. You might see it more later, but I'm careful to get a small amount of paint on my brush, so I keep going back to dip the brush in often. Also, if I get too much, I'm using my thumb to wipe off any excess before applying it, to avoid any paint globs on the head. Add another couple of light coats of brown, and you'll be ready to paint on the black shadows cast from his hat. Again, look at reference pictures and paint a general representation of the shadows. With black, you'll only need 2 to 3 coats at most, but be sure to trace your steps from the first coat on your second pass to match the shape again. Thankfully, with cell shading, it's okay if you veer off course a little because it's all abstract and doesn't have to be perfect. You can also use the second coat to clean up any rough edges from the first pass. I started out doing this pattern different than my first version, but the neck started looking too striped, so I filled in some more by the end of it. That's about all for the black. Now let's look at a comparison with the original head. It's not quite as evident under this bright light, but do you see how his base head color went from a yellowish tan to a more accurate browner color now? I thought in the beginning that it wasn't totally necessary, but I think I've proven myself wrong. It looks really good in person. You could even go a shade darker than I did. I think I still like the entire left side of his face covered, because more often than not, that's how he looked on the show, but this new option gives me a face from either angle, so I'll keep it. Comment below what you end up trying and feel free to tag me on Instagram with your versions. Another thing I'm seeing compared to the source is just how much paler his rope could be. They really made it a bright yellow, didn't they? If you don't want to go that far, adding in little black details helps quite a bit. See how I put some on his shirt under the edge of the mask and in the divots on his rope? That's really it. It doesn't take much and your Scarecrow will be looking much better than the official release. Put them back together if you took them apart, seal them up with a spray, and place them back on your shelf to induce fear into everyone around him. Our work here is done. Thanks for watching. Join me next time where we'll look at a simple sculpting tutorial building on your new painting skills. Go ahead and leave any questions or requests for future characters in the comments below, and feel free to like and subscribe to get notified for my next video. Have a good one, and happy customizing!